Okay, so we are going to work with pain. And I want to talk about some of the different kinds of pain very briefly, and then we'll go into some practice. So, I am not going to attempt to describe all of the specifics about how pain works, but I will say that there are two kinds of pain that I'm interested in talking about today anyway. And one of those is when there's damage being done. So a kind of pain signal that is letting us know, hey, that's too hot to touch, or hey, there's something going on in the tissues of your leg muscle that needs to be addressed, or hey, it's way too cold, get warm, right? These pain signals that we would not have survived without. And folks who, I can't remember the name of the actual disorder, but there are people who can't actually feel pain, and they don't tend to live that long because of the fact that that danger signal is really, really important for survival. So pain is a really good thing on that level. Now, for people like me who deal with chronic pain, it's very important to understand the difference between that and neuroplastic pain. So neuroplastic pain is going to be something that maybe originates from an injury, maybe doesn't. It's going to be something that is maybe inconsistent. It's going to be something that's spreads and moves around. Other possibilities that your pain might be neuroplastic is if you have a history of trauma, if you've had an adverse childhood, if you tend to be someone who's hypervigilant, perfectionist, if you tend to have a lot of anxiety, which goes along with the adverse childhood or the trauma generally. So this pain is our brain a bit confused. So our brain is deciphering sensation as pain when it actually doesn't need to, because there's no damage being done and there's no danger. So for example, one of my various ailments, and some of these, there's labels for, but who knows, right? There's so much overlap when it comes to chronic illnesses, at least in my experience. But one of them is fibromyalgia, which if you go on that list I gave you, like everyone checks off with the symptoms. And so you can put me in you can image my body. You can look at, my shoulders and my arms and my legs and the rest of me. And you're not going to see anything wrong per se. And yet my whole body from head to toe can hurt. Can feel like, it's burning, it's aching, it's stabbing, all of these variety of intense pains and a bunch of other symptoms. So in my journey of living with this body and loving this body, it's been really important for me to understand that while it's not just in my head, right? It's not like fake. It's real to whatever degree we can talk about real. And yet it's not. And learning to work with that kind of pain, learning to work with the kind of pain that is actually like a faulty danger signal, has been huge for me and for folks that I've shared it with, And it's a pretty awesome technique that I want to share with you. And what I'm going to share is inspired by pain reprocessing therapy, which in a way, before I ever knew that term, I was doing it, but there's an important extra added piece that I wasn't putting together. I wasn't putting the pieces together in this particular way, which allowed for it to really be very supportive. And so before we dive in and start doing this, I want to name a few other pains that could show up in this faulty danger signal way. One is anxiety. So anxiety is a danger signal. And when we are chronically anxious, that isn't really helpful, right? It's not actually keeping us safe. When we have like a spike of anxiety in a situation where we need to run, that's great. That's very helpful. When we're just in bed at night, going to sleep, and nothing's going on, got our sound machine and our night guard or whatever your thing is when you're going to sleep, and get the anxieties just coursing through your body. This is not helping you, right? And there's not any danger, not actually. Now, at the nervous system level, if you have experienced trauma, if you have experienced adverse childhood, then at the nervous system level, you may feel like you're in danger all the time. There may always be a sense of that. Now, the same thing goes for fatigue. And we're not talking fatigue like didn't get enough sleep the night before. Fatigue like chronic fatigue, this sort of freeze response, this hypo-aroused state, when you just feel sort of collapsed and fatigued all the time. This can also be a danger signal. And that was really helpful for me to learn, since I've dealt a lot with fatigue in my life. And freeze and collapse can be very helpful if you're a little rabbit, or I don't know, some sort of animal that's wanting the animal that's been chasing you to think that you're dead or that you've just disappeared because you're so quiet and small. Or I could get into some reasons why humans might do it, but I won't right now. But you can imagine, or you've experienced, and that can be very helpful. That can help us survive. Now, when we're no longer actually in physical danger, and our body is constantly sending this danger signal of saying, like, you got to freeze, you got to just collapse, that is not helpful. It becomes a chronic condition, which in my experience lessens the quality of life. So we need to learn to work with these things if we experience these things. Now, I gave you all that information because most people at some time or another deal with some sort of ongoing anxiety, fatigue, pain of some kind. And if you have never, great. You probably will at some point in some way, shape, or form. And chronic doesn't necessarily mean forever. So it can be helpful to have this information to put in your back pocket if you need it. It's also helpful for meditators, because I don't know about you, but especially early in my practice in the first couple of years, when I would sit for long periods without moving, I would feel pain that was like unreal, the most intense and out of hand pain. Like, it would feel like my legs were just being repeatedly hacked to pieces. And then the meditation would be over, and before I would even move, just hearing the bell, my legs wouldn't hurt anymore. But then I would move and it'd be like, okay, the pain is totally gone. Okay, so there was no damage being done in that case. Very important, though, for meditators who like to sit still for long periods, especially on the floor and especially in any sort of cross-legged position. Pay attention to your knees. Sometimes that danger signal is absolutely a real danger signal. This is why we have like Zen monks with blown out knees. So something to be aware of. Same thing with any sort of chronic pain. Get it checked out. And if it turns out that, oh, this is a pain with no obvious sort of reason that can be treated, well, then this can be a good way of working with it. All right. So take a moment and just kind of shake off everything I said. Let it go. Let go of the words, let go of the concepts, let go of the parts that you already knew, let go of the parts that are new to you, let go of the things that maybe you agree or disagree with that I said. As you arrive right here, right now. And we can practice with eyes open or eyes closed, whatever you prefer. Let's take a few nice deep belly breaths if that feels good for you. Breathing in deep, 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 all the way into your guts, all the way deep in your body. And maybe you want to sigh, or maybe this is all in and out of the nose. Deep diaphragmatic breathing. And we can allow the breath to come to its own natural rhythm and pace, whatever depth it wants to be. And we'll go ahead and scan through the body. And as we do this, we'll invite relaxation in a really gentle, easy way, no forcing or judging. And we'll also just be doing a scan, noticing what's here, what's present in the body. Now, as you do this, you're going to run into all kinds of sensations if you're kind of with the experience of the body. Now, this is available to different people at different levels. So as we scan through, you may have a really sharp, clear sense of what you're experiencing at the body level, or it might just be more of like a sort of a vague sense of like, here is the body. Okay. Or it might be something in between, and there might be areas that you feel more and areas that you feel less. So you can't get this wrong. If you can feel your butt on the seat, then you can feel your body. If you can feel any sort of sensation in your body as you breathe, then you can have an embodied experience. So sometimes folks think I just really can't be with my body, but actually there are lots of ways we can be with our body, even in these just kind of simple ways. There's my butt on the seat. So we'll start up at the top of the head, and we'll just scan through, inviting relaxation, and at the same time noticing what's here, what's present. And some of what's present could be a purely physical sensation, and some of what's present could be an emotional sort of sensation. And just noticing and feeling, scanning through the head and face. You might let that jaw soften and that mouth drop open a bit. You might release your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Now, if you're someone who has jaw pain or headaches, maybe there's something like that present right now. So if there is anything, just noticing it. You don't have to do anything about it, just noticing that it's there. Also noticing that there's other sensations too. So if you do have any sort of discomfort in your body, you're also going to notice that there's areas that are comfortable. They're not uncomfortable anyway. So being aware of that, there's a whole bunch of experiences here in the body. When we have discomfort, whether that's physical discomfort or an emotional discomfort, we can gravitate towards that, not noticing that there's this whole world of experience in the body. So if you haven't already, relaxing down into your neck and your shoulders and into your arms and your hands, just cascading this intention of relaxation, as well as mindful attention. What's here? What's present in these parts of the body? Down into the torso. So this is going to include the front and back, as well as inside. So we're inviting relaxation where that's available, and we're also bringing this mindful attention and noticing, are there any sensations that feel good? And noticing, are there any sensations that are maybe uncomfortable in some way? And for some, there might be pain in some of these areas of the body as well. So just noticing what's here. We're bringing this mindful attention, this curious and accepting attention to the sensations of our body, whatever's here. Noticing what's happening in the stomach. Noticing what's happening along the spine and in the lower back. Noticing now the hips and the seat and the pelvic area. Offering the invitation of relaxation, again, in an easy way, with no expectation or judgment. and bringing this curious, accepting, mindful attention to the sensations of the hips, the seat, pelvic area. And then letting this relaxation and mindful attention pour down into the legs. Now, if you've chosen to be in stillness for this practice, if you've chosen to sit in a particular posture, you might at this point be feeling some sensations in your legs, and they might be registering as painful. Or they might just be sensation. You've been practicing a while, you might be very accustomed to these sensations in the legs that are not dangerous. Therefore, don't necessarily need to be registering as pain. Again, we must be so skillful and discerning in this. And we don't push ourselves. If something needs to shift or adjust, especially as we're becoming attuned to the different sensations and what is actually a pain sensation that needs to be addressed, and what's a pain sensation that's just our body doing its thing because it's like, I don't want to sit still. This doesn't feel good. Right? So we want to be discerning and skillful in understanding, especially in the beginning. Or when we start using a new posture as well, when we switch things up, we need to be aware of that. Make sure that the way that we are positioning our body is safe. And then once we are clear on that, we can let some discomfort be there. It's okay. All right. So now that we've scanned through the body, I'm going to give you some options. If, as you scan through the body, you're like, yeah, I'm feeling good. Everything's feeling relaxed, pleasurable. Great. So your practice then is to be with that. And you might choose a particular sensation, something that feels particularly good, maybe. Go ahead and make this a pleasure practice. Or you might find something interesting. Maybe it's not necessarily pleasurable, but there's something that draws you to it. So you could take some time to concentrate on a particular sensation. Maybe it's even just the breath. Or if, as you scan through the body, or if now in this moment, there's something happening that seems to fall into that category of pain that's not actually dangerous, then we'll work with that. So if you're feeling some kind of anxiety right now, and the fact that I've used the word pain so many times could in of itself create a kind of anxiety, then maybe that's the discomfort. Maybe that's the pain sensation that you want to work with. If you're feeling fatigued, and maybe it's, maybe it is that you didn't get enough sleep last night, but you're okay. You're going to get enough sleep tonight. It's not like you're uh, been awake for 10 days and, you're in the danger zone. Let's say you just didn't get quite enough sleep last night, so you're a little fatigued. We can work with that. Or maybe you have that sort of chronic experience of fatigue, so we can work with that as well. Or maybe there is just some sensation in the body that's uncomfortable, that's painful. And you know that it's not because you're being stabbed in the shoulder or because your foot is being dipped in a vat of hot oil. I don't know, some sensation based on meditation sitting, there's pins and needles, or just some discomfort. Or maybe you are someone who has different types of chronic pain that are not necessarily based on something being wrong medically speaking or anatomically speaking. There's just this kind of discomfort, this pain that's with you a lot of the time. So if there's anything like that, anything on that spectrum, so keep in mind that's anything from like, oh, my arm's itchy, also a danger signal, by the way. We want to know if something, we're out in the wilds, getting back to our cave, and we want to know if some sort of poisonous insect is on our arm. So itchy is also good. We need to know that. But if you're just itchy because you're just sitting here and you get the itchies, that could be something to work with as well. You're actually safe. There's not a poisonous insect on your arm, so you're good. You can work with that sensation. So anything from that all the way to like something that really hurts, or one of these emotional kinds of sort of pain, these anxieties or sort of hypostate fatigues. So we'll start by bringing that mindful, curious, accepting attention to the sensation, whatever it is. So I have just a little pain. I'm choosing one, a little pain in my knee, which is just some sitting pain. My knee's actually fine, but the half lotus posture I've chosen is kind of activating this sensation in my knee, which could register as pain. So as I bring mindful attention to this sensation, I'm noticing how much space does it take up? What are the qualities of the sensation? Is it moving and changing? Does it feel hot or cold? Is there expansion or contraction? Does it vibrate or undulate? And I'm letting go of any images related to it. I'm really just feeling the sensation with my physical awareness. And noticing that if I let go of the idea of it being pain, it's just a series of sensory phenomena occurring in that part of my body. And so whatever sensation you've chosen to work with, be it this thing I'm guiding or something pleasant or pleasurable or neutral, we're just bringing mindful attention to the sensation. Simple as that. When you get pulled into your mind, pulled away to something else, coming back to the sensation in a friendly, even celebratory kind of way. I noticed I was pulled away. I recognized it. I woke up. I came back to my object of focus. And here I am, focusing on this sensation, feeling this sensation. Not trying to change it or get rid of it. Getting curious about it, seeing if you can experience it as sensation. And at first, you might be able to get just a instant of it being sensation and not pain. And then that danger signal comes back in saying there's something wrong here. And it turns into pain again. But over time, you can be with a sensation that might have previously registered as painful. You can be with it as just a sensation. Through that mindful, curious acceptance, that exploration of the sensory qualities. So wherever you are on that journey, you're welcome to stay here just with the sensation you're working with. Or we take this next step, which is to bring in some positive reappraisal, some safety reappraisal. So we want to come to the mind and actually let it know that there's no problem. So go to my mind, I say, there is a burning and throbbing sensation in my left knee. And I know that my knee is healthy and there's nothing wrong with my knee in this moment, that my knee is safe. Or if you prefer an abbreviated version that I like, there's no damage being done, I'm safe. Or my knee is safe. So if you are working with something that's not this obvious sort of physical experience, maybe it is something like anxiety, same thing. You notice the sensations of that anxiety, just like you would in any sort of mindful exploration of anxiety, just noticing the shape, the size, the various qualities of that sensation, where in the body it is. Deconstructing it down into waves of sensation, and then going to the mind and feeling contraction in my chest. My heart is beating a little fast. And I know there's nothing wrong. I'm actually safe in this moment. Or if you wish, as simple as there's no danger here. I'm safe. Bring in this safety reappraisal. We interrupt the brain's danger signal. And we might do this once and then bam, we're right back in it. The knee hurts. The anxiety is causing suffering. So then we just do it again. We go through the same steps, feeling the sensation, finding some space around it, finding maybe a more neutral experience of it. And then we go to the brain. We go to our sweet minds that are just trying to protect us. We just let the mind know there's no damage, there's no danger, I'm safe. I'm safe. And we want to bring a lightness or a sweetness or a loving quality to this, or even a kind of humorous, kind of lighthearted quality. Never works for you. I tend to like a kind of like grounded, kind of deep, caring kind of attitude. But you might like a sort of silly one, like, isn't my brain being silly right now? Or maybe it's even the sort of wonder of it. Wow, isn't this amazing? The way my brain does this. This is so strange and kind of beautiful in its own way. And I'm safe. There's no danger here. And we do this again and again. We break that pain fear signal, that pain fear cycle, that uncomfortable sensation. Brain decides it's pain, sends a danger signal. We feel more pain because maybe there's fear in the mind coming up associated with it. And there's more danger signals and there's more pain. There's this cycle. So we interrupt, we reroute, we rewire that cycle. And then something that is chronic starts to change shape. Our relationship to this experience changes. Our brain changes. And you'll have to find out for yourself. You don't need to take my word for it, but I will say that as you work with this in a dedicated way, you'll find that it really is true that you can change your brain. And if that's true, you can change the experience that you're having. And if that's true, who knows what might be possible? So take a moment here to return to that deep breathing. Breathing deep down into the lower body. And maybe there's a sigh, or maybe it's all just through the nose. And then as you're ready in your own time, blinking your eyes open if they're closed, and bringing a little bit of movement into your body. Go ahead and move my leg, and then, yeah, my knee is fine. Right. Now, that particular position I was sitting in, I would not have held for longer than that because I wasn't prepped and positioned in a particular way that I know is safe for my body to sit like that. But because I know that it was fine for 30 minutes, I could just be with the sensation. And now there's nothing going on there. I can kind of feel residual of just being in that position. But even that doesn't necessarily need to be pain. It's just sort of, oh, there's some sensation from sitting that way. All right. Thank you for practicing with me.